What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Physique podcast. Today, I'm joined by Michael Weisel. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
So, Michael and I have been working together for almost a full year now. When we first started, you were training your ass off, training heavy, and you were already well on your way, but there was just some things that we could tighten up because there was some progress you were leaving on the table. But now we've kind of implemented a phased approach. You're down 50 pounds on the scale, and we're continuing to improve your physique. So we effectively went from like 240 to 180, and we're hovering around that 180 right now in a growth phase, but we're going to continue to pull body fat. So before we get into it, what was the catalyst that got you into the gym to begin with? So like, what was your initial interest?
So the initial interest was because of me dealing with body fat pretty much my whole life. And then, I mean, it's cliche, but it's a true cliche. Growing up as a young kid, being a little bit overweight, and middle school, high school, all those kids make fun of you.
Yeah.
So you get to a place where it's like, what do I have to do to better myself and to be happy too? Because Bradley Martin was saying this too on one of his podcasts when he was dealing with his issues. Gym saved his life. Me finding exercise senior year and diving more into it in college, it kind of saved my life because it put me out of that gloom of I didn't have to worry about what people were thinking about me. All I had to worry about is putting the weight on the bench or putting the weight on the bar and doing it, and then who cares about what everyone else thinks about me? And I think that's why I started doing it, is because it gave me a sense of purpose. And it helped me mentally as well and physically.
Yeah, definitely. So the mental thing is something that I think a lot of people miss. People think that like getting into the gym and eating right, it's a tax, like it's a sacrifice. There's not the benefit. But you mentioned that there's like the mental benefit of having all your shit straight. So it's actually easier for you to live that way because you feel like you have some purpose, which is that's awesome. So I resonate with that. I grew up a chubby kid, and I did a lot of restrictive things as a kid. And how I remember one time in my senior year, I went to GNC and I bought Hydroxycut. And I remember taking that and like a couple other things trying to lose fat. And I was sweating profusely through like my hoodies. And it was like hot in the math class, but I couldn't take my hoodie off because I looked like an asshole because I had pit sweat down, you know what I mean? Because I was doing all these things that I was just desperate to find something that worked. And that's kind of what put me on my own journey as well. So I totally resonate with that. So when you first started, so you say you started in your senior year.
Yeah, senior year I started where I went to high school. We had vocational class. Oddly enough, one of the principals asked me to work out before class even started, and I started with insanity. Like a half an hour of insanity, and then before my vocational class would start, I'd do like 30 minutes of lifting.
And I'm not a big advocate of those programs for like optimal results or whatever, but if you're going from no kind of base to getting something, you're going to feel some sense of accomplishment. And, I mean, you're going to burn a shit ton of calories. Yeah. So it's a good thing. But you've definitely progressed in your knowledge over time. So you didn't get stuck there. So I think a lot of people get stuck in these group classes and things like that because they see some progress and they don't have to put a whole lot of thought behind it. And they can feel good because they checked it off the box. Mm-hmm. But there's a difference between doing your best and doing what's required. And over time, your best will become what's required as long as you continue to learn. So I applaud you on that. That's my big point on that, is that you've continued to learn the next level of what you want to do. And implementing specificity in your program too. Like, what is the goal that we're after, and what are we doing specifically to achieve that versus like listing things off that we think that we should be doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Okay, so when you started in high school, was there anything nutritionally that came along with that? Did you start like restricting food, or what was your mindset?
I really didn't start restricting food, anything like that, probably until I got into college. Okay. Maybe junior, senior year, as I was starting to get on my own a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, when you live on campus, you're really restricted by what is on campus. So it's kind of hard. Once I started getting a bigger group of friends, we would go off campus and eat stuff like that. When I really, really got strict into it was when I was out of college. I was making my own food. I was just making the mistake of having frozen instead of fresh. And then when I got with you, I realized it's healthier instead of going to the grocery section and get a frozen bag of chicken and stuff like that, because the added preservatives and stuff like that. And also the protein powder I was taking at a time, it wasn't like the Isoject or the Isolate that we see now that's so popular. So it still had those bad additives like we see, but now I'm doing the ISO way, which is a lot better for you.
It's isolate. It doesn't have all the extra preservatives. So like hashtag Morphogen, we're gonna throw that out there quick. So like, if you look at the tub size of protein for 25 servings, people think like, wow, that's really small. Well, okay, one, when you get the big jugs of protein, like it's one, like 3/4 of that shit's air, like half of it's air. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then the other half of that is a bunch of additive stuff. So in the Morphogen protein is what is on the back, which is just the amino acids essentially. So it's a really good protein source. And I'm not just saying Morphogen's the only one that does that, but moving towards isolate was a good call. Right. And moving from frozen to fresh is definitely it's a good choice from the health perspective. Now, going from cafeteria foods and the drive-through to frozen is a huge jump. It's a huge benefit, big change. But then when you take that to actually buying the actual whole foods at the store and then cooking them yourself, not frozen, that's a different level. You're going to have just less levels of processing and less additives to preserve those things. Okay, so when you started off and you were seeing a bunch of progress, you're getting stronger, what was the catalyst that made you want to look for a coach? Like, what made you decide I want to seek help?
So it fell upon two things: my family's health, like we said when we first started, with a thyroid issue with my mother, and then diabetes and blood sugar issues on my dad's side. That was another thing, because I didn't know as much nutrition-wise as I do know and health-wise as I do now a year later. Yeah. So that was another reason why I got with you. The other thing was when you first start weightlifting, especially when we're younger, we know all these bodybuilders, so we go on YouTube and we just do what they're doing. Yeah. So my rep range was from 4 to 8, 5 to 8 reps, go heavy as possible. I mean, sometimes let's use the Easy Smith machine and just do plates on plates on plates with bands. Yeah. Like you said, there's a time for that, but to really see what you want and to get the definition and get the overall muscle, it's better to do what we're doing now.
So how you move the weight is way more important than how much weight you
Correct,
move.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leave the ego at the door.
Yeah, absolutely. And seeing weights go up was definitely exciting, but I think the more advanced, the more experience you get, the way you feel after your workout is something that you're chasing more. So, like, I couldn't tell you I'd have to look at my logbook to tell you my last lifts. You know what I mean? I added in there. I know it. I know what I should be aiming for.
Right.
But sometimes if I'm not feeling it, maybe my sleep was a little bit off or something, right? I'm not stressed about the weight. I'm stressed about how I move the weight. So Correct. If I have to back down weight one day to get solid engagement, that's fine. And then maybe I'll get warmed up and then I'll be able to get 1 or 2 more reps until failure. The biggest thing that we've implemented is training close proximity to failure.
Right.
And your rep range essentially doesn't matter. Anywhere from 5 to 30 reps is going to stimulate muscle hypertrophy as long as you're within a close proximity to failure. So if you're within a close proximity to failure, you can do between 5 and 30 reps and still get the same muscle growth response. The only difference is the stimulus to fatigue ratio, the stimulus to fatigue. So obviously doing like a set of 30 squats is probably not ideal. And by the time you reach that 30th rep where you're reaching failure, you're probably just so tired it's not muscle failure. So take that how you want. But What have you seen since we started together? Like, what are the big changes from a training perspective?
Perspective, I'd say doing more till failure. So there's always a benefit training more till failure. And it's just the mindset of, like I said, leaving your ego at the door. Who really cares what the person on the left or the person on the right or the person in front of you is doing? You're in there for a reason to better yourself and to shape yourself. So that's the most important thing that has changed my mindset from going to balls to the wall every day. Who cares how you feel? And more as do it the right way.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, as long as you have the perfect form, the weight will come.
Absolutely. Yeah. The weight will continue to come, and then we'll control the weight too with your nutrition.
Correct.
You know, in what phase we're in. So if we're in a dieting phase, I'm not expecting, you know, a 1 rep max, you know. So, okay, nutritionally, what has changed from the time that we started to working together to now? Like, what's changed in your habits, and what have I been able to help you with?
Nutritionally, what you've helped me is just knowing the ins and outs of nutrition wise, giving me tips and stuff like that, what I could add, what I could take away. And I think going through this whole process of me meal prepping all my meals and stuff, you can be creative too. I was one of those guys that would always have a cheat meal more than I should. So being with you, I've kind of stopped that. Now what I mean by more creative, I mean chicken you can add instead of if you're a sour cream fan, try plain Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
You get the same options of the sour cream taste, in my opinion, but you get the healthier version. And just like helping me tremendously with the nutritional facts.
Yeah, just knowing like what's in the food and
Correct.
what that does to you. So I think a lot of clients come to me and they have these preconceived notions of like X food is bad or something like I could never eat insert food here. Or maybe these are the only foods that I'm allowed to eat, where my perspective is foods are carriers of nutrients and that's it. So as long as you're reaching your nutrient requirements, this is barring any digestive stuff because the digestion protocol is completely different, but just in general, if you're getting the nutrients that you need from a macro and a micro perspective and your calories are balanced within the phase, then you're golden. So if you're not a chicken person, or you like, say, you asked me, for example, what type of fish I used in prep, and I told you I didn't eat a single fish in prep. Actually, I take that back. I had salmon on my wedding night, but that was 20 weeks out and whatever. But that was one time, but you don't need to have any kind of food in there. There's multiple foods that provide the nutrients that we're after.
I think the other thing you taught me, because before we got together, I always thought carbs was a bad thing.
Yeah.
But then over time, you taught me carbs are actually a good thing. It's your intake of carbs each day, and if you're training before and right after is where you want to maximize those carb intake. So that's probably another big thing you have taught me and helped me with, is like carbs is actually a good thing because it's
they're our preferred source
fuel
of energy.
Source.
You know, it's just excessive. You know, when excessive carbs, or maybe not even just the calorie balance is what matters most. But we need all three macros. And what is something that I could help you better with? Like I need some help here. What am I lacking? Maybe not what I'm lacking, but maybe what should I help you with next?
I think the only thing would be more of if we could do maybe like a monthly check-in in person.
Okay.
I mean, I understand why you got into the online fitness, because you can help more people and get more clients. But sometimes it's always good to at least meet once a month in person, because you can see the whole picture of the body compared to just pictures. Yeah.
So coaching online for me has been, I've seen just like completely night and day different results, because I'm able to help you with everything.
Right.
Right. But that's something we can implement.
Okay.
Some in-person check-ins. Every month or every 6 weeks or something like that. That's something that I try to do is at least like a video call here and there with my clients, but the check-ins are really the biggest. I mean, that's the coaching process. I get all of your data for the week and everything that happened, and then I'm able to make recommendations for the follow-on week, and then I can
Right.
guide you throughout the week. But yeah, all right, that's something that we can work on, keeping that in person touch to it. Okay, so nutritionally, what is something that you want to learn more about? What is something you have an interest in? Is there anything specific?
Just overall, I guess
Just continue
nutritionally
to
wise, just continue learning about how it just fascinates me how you could look at someone's physique and say, oh, well, we're going to add in 100 more grams of carbs this week and we're going to decrease the protein. I just, that would be one thing I would want to learn,
Okay.
just to
Yeah,
understand.
we'll give you a little more background info on the adjustments that we're making for your
Right, okay.
program there. Yeah. Ultimately, coaching is a process of inputs, outputs, and tracking the difference. So we know if we know what the inputs are, we know what the outputs are, and then we can see the difference.
Right.
So weekly photos are
Key.
They're key. Yeah.
Yes.
I actually picked this up from John Jewett. If you take the progress photos and flip them upside down, it looks less like a human. Okay. Then you can just scan from top to bottom, feet to head, and find soft spots, smooth spots. And then you can also just look at it as a shape a little bit better as well.
Okay.
So that's a thing that I use, so I can find like what's the smoothest spot on this human. Because if you look at it upright, I don't know, your brain's seen so many
Right.
humans that So that was a thing I used for progress photos, just looking for smooth spots and then overlaying the photos to each other and stuff like that. All right. So as far as training, what are some goals that you have just in general for the future?
Physique wise, I would like to progress
Just
each
keep on
month.
progressing.
Keep on progressing. I always thought when I first got into the gym, it'd be great to bench 225, squat 315, this and that. I mean, who really cares about that per se? So it's just training wise, learning more, and then progressing my physique each and every day and getting better every day.
Good deal. Yeah, so we're in a fun phase right now. We're in the metabolic phase. We're in a growth phase. So basically, we're just working food up.
Right.
And we've reached a large amount of protein intake every day. So the more calories you increase, the less your protein requirement is there.
Mm-hmm.
So the food that we're going to keep pushing up is primarily going to come from carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are going to be stored as glycogen in the muscle, give you more energy to fuel your workouts, etc. So that's going to be primarily the macro that we're going to push up. Now, we're going to push fats alongside that just to keep a good proportion, but carbs are going to be the biggest
Correct.
fluctuator. So, and then we'll peel you back out for the summertime. All right, man. So if there's anybody out there that's debating hiring a coach, what kind of advice would you give them?
Most importantly is finding someone that you can connect with very easily and have the right chemistry.
Yeah.
Now, me, I can't say for other people, but you and I have been almost going for a year, and I know I can be combative sometimes just because of my mindset. So I think that's okay to a point. But with me, sometimes I'm a little bit overboard, and I apologize for that. But like you said, it's a process.
We're all good.
So as long as you trust the process and understand that you'll see the positives,
Yeah.
you don't have to be worrying about, oh, I didn't lose 2 pounds. If you lost a pound, that's great. And I think that's the one thing I struggled with you at the beginning was I wasn't losing enough weight. And Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah. So when we first talked, I said, like, what would it be like to lose 50 pounds in a year?
Right.
So there's 52 weeks in a year.
Right.
Right. And you said, wow, I mean, honestly, that would be pretty cool. And so we set a realistic goal, and here we are. And that includes all the phases that we went through.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Because we went through dieting phases. We went through diet breaks to get here. So, yeah, I think trusting your coach is a big thing. And just because they're a good coach and a good athlete doesn't mean it always aligns. So you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to trust them, because what I'll say is, unless you have like a really shitty coach, the plan's gonna work. You know what I mean? So your buy-in and your level of effort towards that plan is what's going to produce the results. So if there's any doubt in your head over like, did they just kind of whip this together really for me, or is this just kind of a general thing, or like, did they mean X, Y, and Z, or all those little questions? The more those questions happen, the less likely you're going to follow the plan, the less likely you're going to follow the results, and that could be nothing wrong with the protocol. It could just be distrust in the coach.
Right.
So hire somebody that you trust, you respect,
Correct.
and that you can communicate with.
Correct.
For
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
What about somebody that's just like thinking about getting into the gym for the first time? What kind of advice do you have?
My advice would be is take it slow. If you're the type of person you've never been to the gym before, it can be really intimidating. Doesn't really matter what gym you go to. It can be really intimidating for some people. So just take it slow. I mean, there's 10,000 feet, 10,000 steps we want for a mile. So start off with 10,000 steps, whether that be on the treadmill in the gym or walking the dog around the neighborhood. And then progressively, if you're more confident, then you can get into the gym. And then you want to start with small numbers. You don't want to do anything too heavy, too tremendously damaging to the muscle, because when you're first starting out and you go too heavy and too quick, you're going to damage the muscles more than positive for the muscle.
Yeah.
And then
it's more likely to make mistakes and
correct,
injure yourself.
Yeah. Correct.
Definitely. So what about like support systems and like people around you?
Coach, for example, if you know someone that's a coach, try to find someone like that can support you, that has the background already. Your family, use your family too, because one thing I learned when I started everything was it can kind of be lonely.
Yeah.
Meaning that your family may want pizza one day, and then you have to decide, do you want to stick to your diet, or do you just want to forget everything about that day just because you want pizza and hang out with your family? And what I've learned is bring that with you to wherever you're going to go.
Yep.
And sometimes people might get offended or they don't understand. That's what I had with my family a little bit, but they understood why I'm doing this, and they see the positive change I have in my life.
If you stick to it long enough, your family will get used
Correct.
to it.
Yes.
Like, even as like, I'm a bodybuilder, I'm a bodybuilding coach. My whole family knows what I do, right? My whole family knows that I am a fitness coach. That's my life. So when I show up somewhere with a meal prepared, they kind of just look at me now. Like, at first, they'd look at me like, really? Are you serious? This one meal you can't? It would just say, yeah, because tomorrow I'm going to wake up with a stomach ache and
Correct.
a headache.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
It's not because this makes me feel good. But other times, now, over time, they've been able to just kind of realize, like, oh, yeah, he's just going to eat his meal. That's fine.
Right.
But he's here, and we're having a nice conversation.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And then implementing some flexibility in there, too, is also the key. You know what I mean? Because, like, if you're not in show prep, for example, right, you have the macros to play with. If you wanted to truly have one slice of pizza with your family and then eat your meal, we can make those macros work. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There is some flexibility there. Now, is that something that you want to do continuously, like over the long? Absolutely not. The more you spend eating prepared meals by you that's not junk, the better off you're going to be. But there is some room for flexibility.
Right. And I think the other thing was that you said more room. Sweets. Sweets is probably one of my biggest things I had to change.
Yeah.
So, like, I maybe during the holiday season maybe had a handful of cookies. And that was it. And people are probably thinking, oh, that's a handful of cookies. That's not too bad. Maybe have a little bit more. But it's like Derek Lunsford, who just won the Olympia, on one of his videos, he said he stays away from sweets completely because of once he starts, he doesn't know if he can stop. So when
Yeah.
it comes to, I always say with eating or working out or anything like that, me, how I look at it, it's 90% mental and 10% physical.
Yeah.
I think mentally is the biggest thing of this game because of if you don't have the right mindset, it doesn't matter how much weight you're putting up or going to the gym every day, you're not going to see the positive effects.
Yeah, you could look at your meal and say like, "Wow, I get to eat this meal." Like
Mhm.
first
Right.
off, we're in such a privileged position where you'd rather go eat fucking McDonald's than a home cooked prepared meal. We should be thankful that we have this home cooked
Right.
prepared meal to
Yeah.
begin with, because there's a big percentage of the planet that is in a food desert.
Correct.
You know, so just your mindset has a whole different thing. And then if you look at that meal and remember how it's going to make you feel after eating it, right? So after you eat chicken, rice, and vegetables, and eat just, or your egg whites, or whatever the meals are that is on plan that your digestive system likes, then you're going to feel good after. Your cognition's going to be good. Your workouts are going to be good. You're not going to walk around a bloated mess. And all those things are positives. It's not all about like how much body fat I'm going to add because of this meal.
And
So, yeah.
I think to go back to, and I just thought something else about what advice I'd give people just first starting out or wanting to get in nutrition wise. Have the mindset of, kind of goes with what saying be thankful. Have the mindset of, oh, I got to, instead of have the mindset, oh, I got to go to the gym. Oh, I got to eat this meal. Have the mindset of you're thankful you get to go to the gym. You're excited to go to the gym. Or have the mindset of you just prepared all this food yourself. You should be proud of yourself that you're sticking to your diet. Have that mindset as you're happy that you get to eat whatever you meal prepped, or be thankful for meal prepping and having that mindset.
So what advice do you have to deal with like naysayers and like the negative groups or negative friends in the group, like things like that? So you're making a life transition and there's always people out there.
Right.
How do you deal with that?
You listen to it. If there's some criticism that could be useful, take it. If not, you just say screw them and move on with your life. And I think that is the aspect of the bodybuilding world I think needs to be changed a little bit, is that there are so many influencers out there that are acting a certain way, and the younger generation is seeing that, and they are, instead of encouraging, they are disencouraging people at the gym.
Yeah.
So I think that's, as a bodybuilding community or fitness industry, I think we need to get back to that positive attitude, encouraging more. And I think we would see less people taking videos as trap videos like you see on TikTok or social media, acting like these guys are creeps, which they're not. Maybe they're just going up to you, seeing if they need help with anything, or they're trying to critique you.
There's a healthy balance of both.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But what I would say as a trainer and a coach is I could see two people in the gym doing the same exercise, both making the same mistake at the same time. If one is male and one is female, I will more likely approach the male to help them with that, only because that female might think some kind of way of me, unless they've seen me coaching and stuff like that, because of the culture, because of that.
Right.
Now, and that sucks. Like, I am happily married. You know what I mean? Like, I'm literally just coming over there to help you do your RDLs right. You know what I mean? Like, I love this shit. I like helping people, but the culture is definitely. But there are enough dudes out there that need to fix their shit that created that. So I would say there's definitely a healthy balance of both. But in the fitness culture, there's room to improve for the encouraging side of things.
Right.
Definitely. So what about your family? So friends, you can really just separate them. You know, if they're naysayers or haters, they're not enjoying, they're against what you have to say, or they have negative shit to say about it. You can kind of just put them at an arm's distance. What about family? How do you adjust their mindset, or how do you adjust your mindset, or how do you go about that?
So when I first started everything, my family didn't like it too much. Like because I was consuming so much protein, they thought I was getting too big. This is before we even got together when I was in college. And so they were kind of a little weary as I started my journey, but like, you're getting too big too quick, or why are you eating this, or why are you eating that? I think it's as long as you educate them why you're doing it, and I have educated my family and they see the positive results.
Yeah.
I think that changes the mindset of everyone, and
Yeah.
not just your family, not just my family, but anyone that is trying to make this journey. As long as you are putting in the work and you're showing your family that I can work hard, there's a reason why I'm doing this, they'll support you no matter what.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, is just educating your family and educating why you're doing this, and making sure that they understand and they accept that there's going to be some instances where you can't hang
Yeah.
out with them or you can't go to dinner with them. And my family's been okay with that, and they've gotten better through this journey process since I've started with you why I'm doing this.
So I think something that's helped me is just a simple sentence of because I want to. And family may not understand, but I've found that the family that's close to you, the ones you can't get away from, they do love you.
Right.
And if you just simply explain that this is truly, genuinely what you want, then they'll likely back off.
Right.
And then over time, as you've transformed, they're probably going to catch on a little bit with, okay, no, he's for real. So it starts with the commitment of saying, this is what I want. But then you have to follow through and show your family that this is truly what I want, because you're showing them that you're going to make some sacrifices on things that they might think are sacrifices, like a family dinner or like a pizza night or something. But you have to show them that, you know, you're going to commit to it on your end too, so it's worth it. But just explaining that, you know, this is what I want is huge.
Yep.
Awesome. So for the future, we're going to keep pulling body fat, adding muscle, just shaping you out. Continue the education piece. Do you have any last minute words you'd like to give out to anybody getting started with their journey, or towards the beginning, or anybody?
I just have the mindset of being thankful you get to do this every day.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what everyone else thinks because of how you look or what you're doing in the gym and stuff like that. You're there for a reason. You're not there to worry about what anyone else. So just worry about what you need to do every day and stick to it, because if you're not going to be committed to it, don't waste your time, and don't waste the time of person that is trying to help you either, because if you're not committed at all, you're not going to see the results.
Yeah, it takes the commitment and it takes an internal decision. That's for sure. Well, I appreciate you being here, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of Beyond the Physique podcast. You can find me at Trevor W Training on Instagram. You can also find Michael on Instagram,
TikTok, Facebook.
You want to drop your handles?
Just Michael Weisel. He brought Morphogen, so if you're looking to start with a great company, look at Morphogen. I liked Morphogen, as you can see with the cup and the hoodie I'm wearing. They are from here, Ohio, down in Columbus, and they go based off of science, which that's the most important thing with the supplement community and everything like that. So you can use my code on the website, Michael, or you can use his code Strategic to save 10%.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Have a good week.
Thank you.